The Central Library discarded its old books twice a year, setting them in cardboard boxes by the service entrance with a hand-lettered sign, "Free." Most people walked past. Marcus Rivera stopped because his daughter Lily, 9 years old and living in their car for the past 4 months, still believed books were magic. She pulled a water-stained hardcover from the pile, The Architecture of Forgotten Places, and opened it to a random page. Page 47. Between paragraphs about Victorian rooflines, someone had tucked a folded note on yellowed paper. "Dad, look." The handwriting was careful, almost architectural itself. "If you're reading this, you need what I couldn't finish." 1847, Oleander Street, southeast corner. Key taped inside back cover. "The place remembers. Don't let them tear it down. M.H. October 2019. Marcus turned to the back cover. A brass key, house-sized, secured with brittle tape. He should have thrown it away. 6 years earlier, he'd been a project manager for a construction firm before the opioid prescription after his back injury became something darker, something that cost him his marriage, his job, his apartment, and nearly his daughter. Clean for 8 months now, living out of a 2001 Honda Civic, working overnight janitorial shifts at the hospital, he'd learned that hope was the most dangerous drug of all. But Lily held the key up to the streetlight and it caught the amber glow like a promise. "Can we just see it?" she asked. He couldn't say no to the first thing she'd asked for in weeks. Chapter 1. The Address That Shouldn't Exist, 1847. Oleander Street sat 3 blocks from the interstate, in a neighborhood the city had forgotten, the same way it forgot people like us. The house, if you could still call it that, leaned slightly to the left as if listening to the ground. Victorian bones showed through gaps in the siding, carved corbels under the eaves, a bay window with half its glass intact, a wraparound porch that sagged like an old mouth. The front door hung on one hinge. "Nobody lives here," Lily whispered. "Nobody's supposed to." I checked the note again. "Don't let them tear it down." The key fit the side entrance, a door I hadn't noticed at first, painted the same weathered gray as the clapboard. It turned with a sound like someone clearing their throat after a long silence. Inside, the smell hit first. Old plaster, rain-soaked wood, something green and patient. Afternoon light came through roof gaps and solid shafts, full of floating dust that looked like static. The main room had been stripped, no furniture, no fixtures, but the walls still wore fragments of wallpaper, a pattern of blue morning glories climbing toward the ceiling. In one corner, someone had stacked milk crates. In another, a camping lantern sat on the floor, batteries long dead. "It's like a castle," Lily said, her voice carrying in the emptiness. I walked to the center of the room. The floorboards creaked in a rhythm that felt almost conversational, each board a different note. Water damage had warped the wood near the bay window, but the bones seemed sound. Whoever built this had known what they were doing. On the mantelpiece, which somehow still clung to the wall above a bricked-in fireplace, I found an envelope. Not the same yellowed paper as the note, this was newer, maybe a year old. My name wasn't on it, but I opened it anyway. "You found it." "Good. The city's scheduled demolition for December 15th, 3 months out when I wrote this. Tax lien, condemned status, nobody fighting for it. But the deed is clear, technically. It's in the basement office, metal filing cabinet, second drawer. The original owner built this in 1891 for the Croatian community, meeting hall, shelter, school. Her name was Maria Horvat. She's in the walls, in the floor marks, in what's left of the beams. If you need it, it needs you. Do what I couldn't. MH, I checked my phone. November 3rd, 6 weeks. Lily was tracing the wallpaper pattern with her finger, following a vine up toward a gap where daylight poured through. "Can we stay tonight? Just tonight?" The Honda's passenger seat had a broken spring that dug into her ribs. The parking lot behind the hospital where we'd been sleeping got patrol checks twice a night now. She had school in the morning, irregular attendance, teachers who looked at her with that careful concern that preceded calls to services. "Just tonight," I agreed. By the time I unrolled our sleeping bags on the least damaged section of floor, The sun was setting through the western windows, turning the dust motes to gold. The house creaked as the day cooled, wood contracting, pipes ticking somewhere in the walls. Not hostile sounds. Conversational. Lily fell asleep reading the library book by flashlight, her finger marking page 47. I went looking for the basement. Chapter 2. What the basement knew. The basement stairs descended from the kitchen, or what had been a kitchen before someone stripped the cabinets and appliances. Each step groaned under my weight, but held. At the bottom, my flashlight beam caught the edges of what M.H. had called an office. A small room, maybe 8 by 10 feet, with a concrete floor and walls that had been painted white decades ago. The filing cabinet sat against the back wall, rust blooming along its seams. Second drawer, stuck at first, then grudgingly open. A manila folder labeled Horvat Property, Original Deed and Records, 1891-1937. Inside, deed transfer papers, handwritten ledgers, receipts for lumber and nails. A photograph of a woman in her 40s standing in front of this house when it was new, her expression serious and proud. Maria Horvat. Behind her in the photo, a group of people, families, children, men in work clothes. On the back of the photo, in faded pencil, opening day, March 3rd, 1891. May this house shelter the lost. The ledgers documented everything. Meals served, rooms rented by the week, children taught English, money borrowed and repaid. The last entry was dated October 1937, moving to daughter's home in Pennsylvania. Praying this house continues God's work. 84 years later, it sat empty, scheduled for demolition. I photographed every page with my phone, then carefully returned the folder. As I pushed the drawer closed, my flashlight caught something else. Carved into the concrete wall, near the floor, almost hidden behind the cabinet. Letters about 3 inches tall, painstakingly etched. Koji Trebaju Mogu Ostati, those who need may stay. I stood there for a long time, reading those words. Upstairs, I could hear Lily coughing. The same cough she'd had for 2 weeks. The one I couldn't afford to have checked properly. The Honda wouldn't make it through another winter. My janitorial job paid $13, $50 an hour, 25 hours a week. I'd saved $8.47, enough for a security deposit if I could find a landlord who'd overlook evictions and criminal possession charges from my worst year, or enough to try something monumentally stupid. I went back upstairs and spread the deed papers on the floor. According to the documents, the property had transferred to the city of city name in 1986 for unpaid taxes, then sat in legal limbo for decades, condemned but never actually demolished, ownership unclear, too complicated to auction, not valuable enough to pursue. The tax lien had accumulated, but the original deed suggested the property was held in trust for community charitable purposes. My phone showed 15% battery. I took photos of everything, then climbed the stairs to the second floor. 4 rooms, varying stages of decay. The front bedroom had the most intact floor and a window that's still sealed. I dragged our sleeping bags up, moved Lily carefully, she barely woke, and laid them in the corner farthest from the roof gaps. Through the window, I could see the city lights, the interstate's constant river of red and white. 20 minutes to the hospital for my shift, a mile to Lily's school, 3 blocks from the library where we'd found the book. The house creaked again, settling into the night. Don't let them tear it down. Chapter 3. The first repair morning came through the gaps first, cold November light that found every hole in the roof, every broken pane. I woke to Lily standing at the window, her breath fogging the glass. There's a bird nest, she said. In the corner of the porch roof. 3 eggs. I joined her. Sure enough, a mourning dove had built in the decorative bracket above the porch. The nest looked fresh, carefully woven. She picked the same place we did, Lily observed. At school drop-off, I asked the office about after-school programs. The secretary, Mrs. Chen, studied my face, recognized the sheltered look, I think, the quality of someone living in survival mode. Is everything all right at home? She asked carefully. Working on it, I said, which was both true and monumentally inadequate. I drove to the property on Oleander Street. The property, I was already thinking of it that way, and spent an hour just walking through, taking inventory. The roof needed immediate attention. 3 major gaps, plus countless smaller leaks. The electrical system was stripped or dead, plumbing questionable. But the foundation looked solid, the walls mostly intact, the structure fundamentally sound. At the hardware store, I bought 1 tarp, a box of roofing nails and rope. $47. I'd done construction work before the pills. Knew how to climb, how to secure a temporary seal. The ladder I found in the shed behind the house, aluminum and questionable but functional. By noon, I had the tarp stretched over the worst gap in the roof, secured at the corners and weighted with scavenged bricks. It wouldn't last a serious storm, but it would buy time. Coming down the ladder, I noticed something. The shed had a workbench, covered in tools left by M.H. Hammer, level, tape measure, a box of assorted hardware, and underneath, a notebook. M.H.'s notebook. The handwriting matched the notes. Day 1. Found this place through the library's local history archive. No family left to claim it. City doesn't know what to do with it. Thought I could save it, give it purpose again. Cancer diagnosis came 3 weeks later. Stage 4. Whoever finds this, do what I can't. The house is worth saving. The stories in the walls are worth remembering. The entries continued for 5 months, documenting M.H.'s research. Horvat House had sheltered Croatian immigrants, provided English classes, hosted community meals, offered temporary housing during the Depression. Maria Horvat had died in 1943, but her legacy had continued through volunteers until the 1960s, when neighborhood decline and changing immigration patterns made it obsolete. It closed, fell into city hands, became invisible. The last entry, leaving the key and the note in the architecture book, library local history section, second shelf. If someone finds it, it means they're looking for what this place offered. Shelter, purpose, proof that ordinary people did extraordinary things. I sat on the workbench reading until my phone alarm reminded me to pick up Lily. That night we ate dinner on the floor of the front bedroom, sandwiches from the dollar store, apples, water from our gallon jug. Through the new tarp, I could hear rain starting, but nothing leaked through. "Are we homeless?" Lily asked suddenly. "We're between places," I said, the answer I'd been giving for months. "Are we between places here?" I looked around the room, walls that had sheltered hundreds, floors that remembered their footsteps, a window facing a street that had once been full of hope. "Yeah," I said. "I think we are. If you're enjoying this journey so far, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from." Chapter 4. Community and Conflict. The city inspector arrived on day 12, clipboard in hand, expression already decided. I'd been expecting him. A neighbor had called. Probably the man 3 houses down who'd watched me patch the broken window. "Marcus Rivera?" "That's me." He looked past me into the house, taking inventory of violations. "You can't live here. Properties condemned, scheduled for demo. No power, no water, no occupancy certificate." "I'm aware. I'm researching the property history. The original deed suggests it was held in trust for charitable purposes. I believe the city's claim is questionable." That stopped him. "You a lawyer?" "No, just someone who reads documents." His expression shifted, not friendlier but more careful. "Even if that's true, the tax lien is real. $23,000. Place needs another $50,000 in repairs minimum to meet code. You got that kind of money?" "Working on it." He wrote something on his clipboard. "You've got until December 15th to clear out or provide proof of legal claim and remediation plan. After that, it's coming down." He paused at his car. "For what it's worth, neighborhood used to tell stories about this place. Old-timers say it saved lives during the Depression. Shame to lose it. But the city's got a development deal pending for this block." After he left, I called every lawyer offering free consultations. The 4th one, a civil rights attorney named Reyes, listened to my summary. "The charitable trust angle might work," she said carefully, But you'd need money for filing fees, court costs, and you'd be fighting the city while living in a condemned building with a child. Child services gets involved, you lose her. Better to find another way. I knew she was right. But walking away meant watching it crumble, meant Maria Horvat's legacy becoming rubble, meant the note on page 47 had been a lie. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I went down to the basement, to the carved words, "Those who need may stay." By flashlight, I started checking the foundation walls systematically, looking for more marks, more messages. In the northwest corner, behind decades of mineral deposits, I found them. Names, carved into the concrete. Hundreds of names. Petar Markovic, 1894, Anna Juric, 1896, Josip Kovac, 1903, Familia Rodriguez, 1935. They'd signed this place like a guest book, a permanent record of shelter received. I photographed every name I could find. The next day, I posted the photos to a local history Facebook group. Found these names in the basement of the old Horvat house on Oleander Street. Anyone recognize ancestors? Place is scheduled for demolition in 5 weeks. By that evening, I had 40 messages. By the next morning, a woman named Vesna Juric was standing on the porch with her grandfather. Anna Juric was my great-great-grandmother, she said. We thought all records were lost. Can we see? I showed them the basement, the carved names, the ledgers. The grandfather cried, touching his ancestor's name with shaking fingers. This house saved our family, he said in heavily accented English. My grandmother told stories. We thought they were just stories. Word spread. Over the next week, I had visitors, descendants, historians, members of the Croatian American Society, a reporter from the community newspaper. Each one brought something. A story, a photograph, a donation toward the tax lien. The reporter's article ran with the headline, "Historic Immigrant Shelter Faces Demolition. Community Rallies to Save, Last Link to Heritage." Donations started coming through a GoFundMe someone set up without asking me. $50, $100, $25. By the end of week 3, we had $8,000. Nowhere near enough, but impossibly more than nothing. Then the complications started. A developer, Green Space Properties, sent a lawyer. They'd contracted with the city to buy the lot, planned to build mixed-use housing. The demo delay was costing them money. They offered me $5,000 to walk away quietly. That's a lot of money for someone in your situation, the lawyer said, not unkindly. It was. It was first and last month's rent somewhere. Security. Safety for Lily. I need to think about it, I said. Chapter 5. The Storm and the Second Discovery. The storm came on November 28th, 3 weeks before the demolition date. Weather Service called it a significant weather event. 50 mph winds, heavy rain, potential flooding. I'd reinforced the tarp, boarded the broken windows, but the house was held together with hope and a century-old carpenter's pride. Lily and I sheltered in the front bedroom, the most protected space. Rain hammered the roof. Wind found every gap, whistling through the walls like the house was breathing hard. Around midnight, I heard something tear, the tarp lifting at one corner. Stay here, I told Lily. I grabbed the flashlight and headed up to the attic access, a pull-down ladder in the second-floor hallway. Water was already coming through, spreading dark across the ceiling. I climbed up into the wind and rain, secured the tarp's corner with rope and a brick, got soaked through in 30 seconds. Coming back down, my flashlight caught something I hadn't seen before. Under the attic ladder, water damage had loosened a section of baseboard. Behind it, a small hollow space. Inside, a metal box wrapped in oilcloth. Back in the bedroom, I opened it while Lily held the flashlight. Inside, letters. Dozens of them, bundled with string. All addressed to Maria Horvat, dated 1920-1942. Letters from people she'd helped, thanking her, updating her on their lives. Dear Maria, my children graduated university. They are doctors now, because you gave us shelter when we had nothing. Dear Mrs. Horvat, I am sending $20 to help another family the way you helped mine. At the bottom of the box, a letter in Maria's handwriting, unsent, dated February 1943, 2 months before she died, according to the records. To whoever inherits this house. I am old now, and tired. This building took everything I had. My youth, my savings, my comfort. I chose people over profit, need over comfort. Some days I questioned if it mattered, if saving one family at a time could ever be enough. Then I would find letters like these. Then I would see children who had beds instead of streets, parents who had hope instead of despair. The house absorbed their stories the way wood absorbs water, became part of its structure. If you are reading this, you have found the names in the basement. You understand what this place was. Maybe you need it now, the way they needed it then. The only wealth that matters is the lives you shelter. The only success is the hope you refuse to abandon. This house taught me that. It cost me everything, but I have no regrets. Do not let them forget what ordinary people can build when they refuse to look away from need. Maria Horvat. I read it 3 times while rain pounded the roof and Lily dozed against my shoulder. The developer's offer sat in my email. 5 $5,000. Enough to get us out. Enough to be smart, practical, realistic. But Maria had chosen people over profit, had given everything. The least I could do was refuse to give up on her legacy. I opened my laptop, borrowed Wi-Fi from a sympathetic neighbor, and started writing. An email to the reporter who'd covered us, CCing every city council member, the Historic Preservation Board, the Croatian American Society president. Subject: Horvat House, Cultural Heritage Site, not demolition opportunity. I attached photos of the letters, the carved names, Maria's final message. Laid out the historical significance, the community connection, the donated funds. Proposed a solution. Transfer the property to a nonprofit trust. Use donations to cover the lien. Make it a community heritage center and emergency shelter. Hit send at 3 a.m. while the storm tore at the tarp and the house creaked its century-old conversations. By morning, the storm had passed. The tarp held. And I had 12 responses. If this restoration story has you hooked, hit like. It helps us bring more lost places back to life. Chapter 6. What Remains. The City Council hearing happened on December 12th, 3 days before the scheduled demolition. I'd never been in a room like that. Wood paneling, a curved council bench, fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. I wasn't alone. Vesna Juric came with her grandfather. The Croatian American Society president brought 15 members. The reporter sat in the front row. The lawyer who'd offered free advice showed up to represent the historical argument pro bono. The developer's lawyer spoke first, emphasizing contracts, timelines, neighborhood improvement plans. Professional, persuasive. Then I spoke. I told them about finding the book, the note on page 47, the key that opened a door to something bigger than a building. I showed them the photographs, the carved names, the ledgers, the letters, Maria's final message. I explained what the house had been, not just shelter, but proof that ordinary people could answer impossible need with impossible generosity. The developer calls this an abandoned building, I said. But buildings aren't abandoned, people are. This house refused to abandon people for 60 years. The least we can do is return the favor. I talked about Lily, about living in our car, about the note saying if you need it, it needs you. About how Maria had spent everything to build something that mattered more than profit. I have $11,000 in donations, not enough for the tax lien. But I have something else. 73 volunteers who've signed up to help with repairs. I have contractors who've offered materials at cost. I have the Croatian community pledging to match funds. This isn't about saving a building. It's about remembering that the people who came before us built things bigger than themselves, and refusing to let that become rubble. The vote was 5-4. Close enough to hurt. In favor, transfer the property to a non-profit trust, waive half the tax lien, give us 18 months to renovate and establish a community heritage center and emergency shelter. The developer's contract would be honored on a different property. Vesna's grandfather hugged me in the hallway after, crying again. Maria would be proud, he said. The work started the next day. Volunteers showed up with tools, ladders, paint. A roofing company donated materials. An electrician offered his weekends. Slowly, room by room, the house began to breathe differently, not with the resigned patience of abandonment, but with the purposeful noise of renewal. By February, we had 2 rooms fully renovated, the front bedroom and the kitchen. Lily had her own room for the first time in a year. The kitchen had running water, a donated stove, a table built from reclaimed wood. By April, the non-profit paperwork cleared. Horvat House officially became a heritage center and temporary shelter. 3 rooms for emergency housing, 2 for cultural events, the basement for archives. In June, we hosted our first event, a reunion for families connected to the original residents. More than 100 people came. They brought photos, stories, recipes Maria had taught their grandparents. They signed the new guest book, continuation of the names carved in concrete. Lily, now 10, gave tours, explained about Maria, about the letters, about how people in the past had built things that lasted. She'd stopped coughing, started sleeping through the night. The city offered me a job managing the Heritage Center. Not much money, but enough. Health insurance, stability. We lived in the renovated second-floor apartment, caretakers of something bigger than ourselves. Sometimes, late at night, I walk through the quiet rooms, touch the walls where Maria's morning glories still climb toward the ceiling, read the carved names in the basement, think about the library book, the note on page 47, the chain of decisions that led from a cardboard box to this, a place that shelters, a community that remembers, a legacy that refused to die. MH had left a note for someone who needed what they couldn't finish. Maria had spent her life building something bigger than profit. Both of them had understood the same truth. The only wealth that lasts is measured in changed lives, preserved stories, and the simple refusal to let need become invisible. The house stands, the stories remain. And every time someone walks through the door looking for shelter, looking for history, looking for proof that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, we get to say yes. Because someone carved into concrete, those who need may stay. And some truths are too important to demolish. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't wealth. It's the memory of those who chose people over profit, and the courage to honor that choice by doing the same. Subscribe for more true-to-life tales of rebuilding, memory, and hidden history. See you in the next story.